Okay, we are on episode 11, page 33. Beowulf is lying waiting for Grendel and Herod. Grendel is approaching Herod. So let's open with 11. Out from the marsh, from the foot of the misty hills and bogs, bearing God's hatred, Grendel came, hoping to kill anyone he could trap on this trip to High Herod. He moved quickly through the cloudy night, up from his swampland, sliding silently toward the gold-shining hall. He had visited Hrothgar's home before and knew the way, but never before now, after that night, found Herod defended so firmly, his reception so harsh. He journeyed forever joyless straight to the door, then snapped it open, tore its iron fasteners with a touch, and rushed angrily over the threshold. He strode quickly across the inlaid floor, snarling and fierce. His eyes gleamed in the darkness, burned with a gruesome light. Then he stopped, seeing the hall crowded with sleeping warriors, stuffed with rows of young soldiers resting together, and his heart laughed. He relished the sight, intended to tear the life from those bodies by morning. This monster's mind was hot with the thought of food and the feasting his belly would soon know. So Grendel emerges from the swampland, moves quickly to Herod. There's this idea of the religious aspect, the religious theme playing out. Grendel bears God's hatred, being the curse of Cain. Grendel actually arrives in Herod, and he's surprised that it has the soldiers in it, and he laughs. He believes that the humans are stupid, and that this is something, this is a night that he will again be victorious. But fate that night intended Grendel to gnaw the broken bones of his last human supper. Human eyes were watching his evil steps, waiting to see his swift, hard claws. So there's foreshadowing in line 734 through 736. As the narrator says, this will be his last human supper. Beowulf is watching his every move. Grendel snatched the first geat he came to, ripped him apart, cut his body to bits with powerful jaws, drank the blood from his veins, and bolted him down, hands and feet. Death and Grendel's great teeth came together, snapping life shut. So he grabs one geat and successfully kills him and eats him. Then he stepped to another still body, clutched at Beowulf with his claws, grasped at a strong-hearted, wakeful sleeper, and was instantly seized himself. Claws bent back as Beowulf leaned up on one arm. So the second geat that he goes to grab is actually Beowulf. And Grendel immediately realizes this isn't like anybody else that I've ever taken a hold of before. And his immediate fear, or his immediate thought, is to run, which is based in fear. That shepherd of evil, guardian of crime, knew at once that nowhere on earth had he met a man whose hands were harder. His mind was flooded with fear, but nothing could take his talons and himself from that tight, hard grip. Grendel's one thought was to run from Beowulf, flee back to his marsh and hide there. This was a different Herod than the hall he had emptied. But Higlac's follower remembered his final boast and, standing erect, stopped the monster's flight, fastened those claws in his fists till they cracked, clutched Grendel closer. So Grendel actually tries to leave, and Beowulf says, oh no, I'm just not going to let him run away. My mission is to kill him. So he actually grabs him and pulls him back to him. The infamous killer fought for his freedom, wanting no flesh but retreat, desiring nothing but escape. His claws had been caught. He was trapped. That trip to Herod was a miserable journey for the writhing monster. The high hall rang, its roof boards swayed, and Danes shook with terror. Down the aisles the battle swept, angry and wild. Herod trembled, wonderfully built to withstand the blows of struggling great bodies beating at its beautiful walls. Shaped and fastened with iron inside and out, artfully worked, the building stood firm. So there's this unbelievable struggle that's happening between Beowulf and Grendel, so much so that everyone in Denmark can hear their bodies beating on the walls, and how Grendel and Beowulf are basically destroying Herod, or damaging Herod, as they're fighting each other. Its benches rattled, fell to the floor, gold-covered boards grating as Grendel and Beowulf battled across them. Hrothgar's wise men had fashioned Herod to stand forever. Only fire, they had planned, could shatter what such skill had put together, swallow in hot flames such splendor of ivory and iron and wood. Suddenly the sounds changed. The Danes started in new terror, cowering in their beds as the terrible screams of the Almighty's enemy sang in the darkness, the horrible shrieks of pain and defeat, the tears torn out of Grendel's taut throat, Hel's captive caught in the arms of him who, of all the men on earth, was the strongest. So we end episode 11 with this kind of battle cry, this screaming that's echoing throughout the land. And it's Grendel. And Grendel's writhing in pain and screaming because he's being defeated. He's categorized as the Almighty's enemy. You can put this under good versus evil. You can put this under the battle of religion. But what I want you to think about is how Beowulf, as an individual, is actually affecting society, affecting the larger group by saving them from Grendel. His actions show that good is going to triumph over evil, Beowulf over Grendel, but also the importance of heroes and why society really needs heroes. What does a hero do for that society?